You had sent Corporal Jamison down to make a phone call, and I was asking you what else you did, what else you noted and observed in your investigation on the 24th.
Well, while he was gone, I kept my camera. I didn't have a notebook, I didn't have another thing. And I took an extra film container. And I started around the building. I don't remember...
Taking them in whatever order.
I'm not positive now which order I took them in. But I went around taking the views of the building and the road and the inside, what I found. And then when I got down on the back of the building, I noticed another can, which I have a picture of.
Okay, can you identify the exhibit that you're talking about?
Yeah, this is exhibit number 6. And those exhibit numbers doesn't mean that's the order I took them in. I'm sure that these 3 colored pictures probably wound up a film that was in the camera, where there's only 3 of them. And the first thing I did is take a picture of this oil can when I found it. And it was
so you're saying that you found yet another sort of gas or oil can?
Yeah, that's not either one of these. This is a can that I didn't find until after I'd found the body and Jamison was down making the trip. And I took a picture of that exactly where it was.
Where was it?
It was on the back of the building, down below the door, which had no stairs or anything to it. It would be right in this area.
Okay. For the record, you were indicating on, could you point on deposition exhibit number 3 to where it was that you found this can?
There was a little boiler room in here, and there was an outside door here with no stairs, just a door. And it would be somewhere right in that general area. I think my own diagram, I think I had the doorway marked on it, but I may be wrong.
Well, let's take a look. Your diagram is attached to deposition exhibit number 2, correct?
Yeah. You look on here and you will see. In fact, the picture shows this wall, this corner right in here where your boiler room come back. And it was directly under this back door, right up here. Whether I've got it on there right or not. It's right on the back of the building, of this wall. And it was right down under it. And before I get this picture, I was wondering, as I remember that wall was about, my brush parking, about 4 feet high, and I see the cement blocks there. You could count 5, 8 blocks is 40 inches, and the little boiler sill and the cans down the ground. So I guess my memory was pretty good on the cement between that. It's between 40 and 48 inches. Right here now.
What was the condition of the can that you found underneath the back door?
There was no cover on it, and I could smell kerosene strong in it, but there was a lot of water in it too, because as a fireman, I suppose spraying water come down into it. Of course, I wasn't even out there that night, and that's the first time I'd ever saw it. That morning, I can get around back when I found the body.
Now, I noticed that on the back of this photograph, which is deposition exhibit number 6, you've written, view of 5-gallon can near rear door of Kenny Fire, about half full of kerosene or fuel oil. Is that, again, is that your handwriting?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, now, were those notes made at the time that the picture was taken?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Because I developed them myself and mark them right down.
These are Polaroid pictures?
Right.
Did you have any routine as to when you would, did you always make notes on the back of the pictures?
Oh, yeah. I think anyone you'll ever find, mine will be mine.
And did you always made those notes at the time you took the pictures?
Right.
And was it your habit to make reasonably accurate notes?
Well, if I didn't, and if I'd taken that bunch of pictures right there and come home 2 days later, it'd be quite a job for me to tell you which direction those were taken to a fire rooms. If I didn't, I usually took my compass, which I always carried, and I found out where north was, and then I went from there and marked my picture.
Did you say you had seen this building on while investigating a previous fire?
Yes.
Okay. When was that?
All I can tell you was prior to it, it could have been a year, it could have been 3, I just don't remember. I know, I didn't investigate it really. Norm Herrin got talking and they probably up there on something else and told me about this fire and that they was having a, down around the oil boom, and he either said he was going to call the oil burner inspector or he had, and I don't know what I thought, and I just said, well, no question in my mind started somewhere around that furnace room. And you're expert on oil burners, you probably got a better idea than I did what did.
Okay, did you have a, before we got to anything else that happened on the 24th, anyone else who might have shown up, for instance, did you notice anything, well, were there windows in the building or in the walls that had fallen out? Was there any glass in them? For instance, what was the condition of the glass from the building?
Oh, as I walked around the building, because there was no windows left, I mean, they'd either broken out or fallen out. And, but I did find glass several places that was clean white glass, apparently broken window glass, as well as that was under the body. And there was no sign that there'd been any fire prior to it.
Well, could you elaborate, what kind of sign would there be on glass if there had been? Well,
if you get a fire in the house and you build up heat to blow it out from a heat blast, it'll put a film on it, just like it'll color up your walls before it breaks. A lot of times you'll see a window turn all black and the red glow and go out. And that
film of soot or something? Film of soot or soot?
Yeah, it's a soot layer of products of combustion, we call it. Could be smoke, could be soot. And but when they're broken prior to for any heat or fire, they're clean glass. And, those they come out in a whole section. Usually, if it's a blast of LP or gasoline fumes, and you've got the same pressure per square inch all over that window if you build up pressure in this room. And they usually take it all in one piece and land on the ground and then fragment there. Sometimes it won't even break. I've had a whole window blown out quite a few feet right in the frame and be there. But,
can you describe the window or where the glass was in this fire? You said the glass was clean, correct?
There was some where I could see it. What I remember distinctly now was on both, on the driveway side, which where I found the tanks. You could see where the tank set there. There was some out that way, which I remember I showed to I think Detective Schumann that morning. Either he or Sergeant Pinkham. And then there was more on the opposite side, which would be over next to, towards that garage. And that seemed to be the same way over there. And, but the firemen fought hard to save that other building, but the glass would have gone back in if they'd done it. It wouldn't have been on the outside, and that was clean there too.
So the glass was on the outside of, on deposition exhibit number 3, the body was found in the front of the building, correct?
Yeah.
And over here would be where the road goes down to the lake?
The driveway kind of come up here, and then there was a turnoff, went right down this side.
Okay.
And the can was something off in here.
Okay, and I'm taking both of these exhibits together.
The slope went back. This almost split level, as you could see from that picture on the back, and right up here was at ground level.
Okay, now you're saying that you found clean glass on this side of the building?
In this area, right through here.
Okay, and also some...
And in that, between here and that garage, it's settled this way.
Okay, now you said that sometimes the pattern of glass will be, such that if a pressure explosion blows it out, it will blow it out with a fairly even fragmentation.
It's going to look more like you took the paint and threw it over there and let it land.
Right. Was there anything that you noticed about the pattern of the glass?
It seemed that it had that pattern that you get. LP does it a lot more than gasoline.
What is LP?
Liquid petroleum.
Okay.
That's a higher grade gasoline. They have to have it under pressure to keep it from evaporating. It's actually the same thing.
Are you saying like explosions of liquid petroleum or what?
Yeah, well, if you get a LP gas leak in the house, and then something touches it off and it blows, it usually will take windows right out and they'll land outside. And in fact, that's how I used to tell whether that's what started the fire, whether they had an LP explosion prior to the fire or not. The LP is a little more violent than gasoline because it's more higher refined, and usually that type of fire builds up to the in your ignition. There's a lot narrower range on LP. That's why they say it's safer to use in the building. It runs from 5.4 to 9.5 mixture with air, or else it won't blow up. It'll either be too rich or too lean. Okay. And the others have a big tolerance. So,
based on what you observed with the windows there, and the other observations you made, the walls falling out and whatnot. And anything else that you want to add? Do you have an opinion as to whether or not there was a vapor explosion at the commencement of this fire?
Objection.
In my opinion, there was a good chance that there was one, from what I found there.
Okay,
Sometime.
I noticed, that you use expressions like good chance or whatever. For the purposes of court, sometimes those can be pretty confusing. Are you saying that you believe that it's likely, or that you believe that it's unlikely, or that you can't tell?
I believe it's likely that that's what put that glass out there, yes I do.
Okay. What is the mechanism of a vapor explosion? Could you briefly describe that?
Well, gasoline vaporizes at 40 below zero. From there on, it's going to vaporize. And it'll vaporize anyway, but at that point, any spark or flame will ignite it. And well, to show you the difference, if it was kerosene, you'd have to have it heated up to 120 to do what the gasoline does at 40 below zero. If you're talking LP, that's even more refined and a little more potent. But if you took gasoline and put it into some container or in a room or in a house, and you could put a small amount in probably and light it and get away with it right then. But if you put any amount of it in there and then left it, especially if the house is warm, for a very long period, the minute it gets a spark, it's going to blow up. And
Okay.
that's the best way I can tell you. We had a case over in Camden where a fellow tried to burn his wife up with gasoline. She went in the bathroom, he touched it off, and she went out the window, and he went out the door and burned to death. So that's the difference in the gasoline. I've had a lot of fires set with gasoline, and I've had some of them I never got to talk to because they were dead in the hospital, and I've had others that were all burned up and down to the burn center. And it's pretty tricky if you don't do it right.
Okay, I would like to take a look at deposition exhibit number 4. This is another photograph, and I'd like to basically run through the photographs. And at this point, maybe Mrs. Cochran would like to leave again. I don't know. Take a break. Okay, Bill, we're back on the record.
Okay, sorry.
Mrs. Cochran having left the room. We've already looked at number 6, but I'd like you to show you number 4 and ask you to identify that. Tell me anything that it shows you.
Well, this photo number 4 is a view of the body. It was seen, it was taken from looking back towards the door where he was found. It shows his legs and his buttocks and up through to his shoulders and the broken skull that I described just inside the door.
Okay.
And this is the colored photo.
Okay, now let me ask you, this is taken from inside the building?
Yeah, you know, the
out?
debris looking out towards the door, which is right here.
Okay, towards the door and along the wall. Could you, on deposition exhibit number 3, which...
I'm taken right from here.
Okay, so it's your thumb is sort of at the foot of the body and looking out towards the door.
Right.
Okay.
Slight angle, but...
Okay. Now I'd like to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 5, which I think is the last of the color photos, and ask you to give me the same information.
Yeah, this is a picture taken from practically the opposite direction. View from the body from the door, sill to from the front door, looking back in. There's oh, wait a minute. No. Let me correct myself. I looked at that wrong myself as many times I've looked at it. Yeah, this one's taken from the door sill in the front door, looking in. Yeah, here's your head right here. What did I get wrong on the other one? Get new glasses.
Okay, now, with deposition exhibit number 5 facing towards you,
Yeah.
if we flip the picture right over, you're saying that the head is in the lower left-hand corner?
Yes, that's right.
And that little flesh-colored bit that you're indicating is, in fact, what it seems to be.
I don't. See, this one is clear. There's the head, there's the butt. I'm get confused myself here a minute. This is a piece of BX. No. I looked at them the other day and I thought I... I don't know what there is about that now that's got me buffaloed. I thought I had that.
Well, which one are you sure
I'm
of?
sure of this one.
Okay, now,
Yeah, there's no
we're
question about
indicating
that one. That's taken, doesn't it, from...
number 4, which we've already been over.
Yeah, that's taken from looking right in towards the body and the door still wet by the head.
Okay.
This is the body.
Right,
No
but the
question.
body's clearly visible in that picture.
That's right. And this one was supposed to have been taken the other way and it don't look right. I'm trying to compare the metal.
All right, so you were a bit confused yourself looking at number
View
5.
of body from the door sill, front door. Did I mark them both the same? Yeah, I think they're marked the same, so I guess. I'm not going to say on that one now. I would suppose but it's marked the same way. View of the body from the door sill to the front door.
To the front door.
Had to be a different angle.
Okay.
Because the metal doesn't
Oh, you're confused by your own caption, is what you're saying here.
Objection. It's leading.
Okay, so we have some problems.
I'm not going to say the I'm
Okay,
not
so
sure.
let's say the exhibit that you're unsure of the angle on, or what it shows, is number 5?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
I just don't, I thought it was all clear there, but right now the metal doesn't match up. I think with the black and whites I could straighten it out from the background.
Here is number 7. I ask you to identify that.
Yeah, this is all plain, taken as the head right here and there's the body right back in the bottom. That should be marked from the door sill in and from the stomach test reports, that's right.
Okay, and let me just, in terms, you said before that you made these notes and wrote them when you developed the Polaroids.
Yeah.
That's true of all these pictures?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, that's number 7. Number 7 then shows the body, the head, and the limbs.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 8, what does that show?
That's looking back down towards the lake from the driveway that come off on the Sumac Road or whatever it was and drove up. But I'd be standing right here, almost in front of the driveway that swings into the house, and the house would be right
And you're
there.
looking down towards the lake?
That's right, and I believe it must say so. In front of the Kenny cottage looking toward the lake, yeah. That you can just see, I think, down through the road coming around the lake and this branch coming up on the hill there.
Okay. Let me show you deposition exhibit number 9.
Yeah, that's taking the body kind of aside to back towards the front door. This is the buttocks and there's the head right down in there. Usually colored showed better, but that black and white, yeah, it's pretty good. And door still leading out from the porch, yeah.
Okay. And the head is on the right-hand side.
That's right here.
There's a piece of metal kind of lying across the shoulder.
Around here.
Bent
yeah.
metal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll pull that out a minute afterwards and
Yeah.
help me straighten that out with this piece of metal.
Deposition exhibit number 10.
Yeah, that's a picture of the scene from the more the north or northwest. Yeah, facing southeast. It's got to be opposite of northwest. Yeah.
Okay. And does this show anything that, this exhibit number 10, previously there had been some testimony about the walls falling around.
Oh, well,
does this
that's-
show
yeah.
anything of significance to your
Oh,
opinions?
you can see them. Maybe it's all, they're falling right out over, and you can see the logs out here. Some of them show them more than that. But. Yeah.
Were they burnt on the inside or the outside? These?
Oh, they're burnt on the inside. Yeah.
Okay. Deposition
You can
exhibit
see the stain there when they come in.
number 11.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, that's another picture taken from the almost north. And it shows the back of the fireplace. The front door would have been over here. It shows your storage garage and this wall that's leaning out towards that one, and it shows the other ones that are falling out this way.
Okay.
See the
Do I understand you?
little sections. Right.
Okay. The garage was saved in the fire. They saved the garage, the firemen?
Yes, they did, yeah.
Okay.
I think that they were up around that area more with their clothes when I got there.
Okay, now I'm looking at number 12 here. Again, I'd ask you to identify that.
Yeah, that's almost the same thing. This is looking almost east there. And this shows where your front door went in up here. And you're looking right into the fireplace, and the garage was on your right. It's funny, it doesn't quite get back far enough. That picture down the driveway would be back here, and the drive went down the side of it where the gas can was. It would have been right in this section. That should be, yeah. The northeast, yeah.
Okay, and here, deposition exhibit number 13. Could you identify that?
Yeah, this is a little farther over to the, looking more to the north. And in fact, I almost believe that's your step right there where you went into the house.
You're indicating
The cement step.
between the two rocks in
Yeah,
the lower
the walk
part
came up.
left of the
I'm pretty
picture?
sure that's it. That's about where it was. And this wall was out here, and the building doesn't quite show in the picture.
Okay. And finally, deposition
North.
exhibit number 14.
And this one would be looking almost east, right? That shows your doorway real clear.
Okay.
And it showed,
Number 14?
yeah, you had the cement piece, and then there was a sill up there. I'd forgotten that. You had to step up. That piece was right out here, come off the door, and I was hunting right in there for the hinges when I found him coming back. And that's, you can see these logs tumbled Wango.
Excuse me, these logs.
I'm sorry, you just did. I said those dogs fell for Wango all over here. They fell out. Yeah.
Okay, now having identified and testified as to what all these photographs are, do these photographs fairly and accurately represent what you observed there on the 24th of February 1981?
Yes, they do.
Now, after taking the photographs and noting the glass, and well, just let me get Mrs. Cochran back in the room at this point, if we'll go off the record just a bit. Okay. Just to wind up on these photographs, there was some confusion about number 5 before. Having compared it to photograph, which is the exhibit number 7, have you just, do you orient that now?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And 5 is the same view as 7, basically?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Bill, after you sent Corporal Jamison to make the phone call and you had observed the glass and observed the body, what happened next?
Well, he was gone. I heard an automobile coming. I was down by that picture I showed you of the cursing again. So
You were in the back of the building?
Pardon?
You were in back of the building by the back?
Right, I was taking that photo, I remember down in there. So I thought it was kind of quick for them to come back, so I said, I guess I'll wait a minute. And I stayed down behind there, and I heard the car stop out front. It was noisier than mine. So I walked up around in back of the building, which was standing in the garage, stayed behind that. And I saw 2 subjects get out of the old car and start walking up the walk that came up to the door, and I let them get perhaps from here to that wall. And I didn't want them to stay, and I didn't want them to know what I'd found, and so I just stepped right out behind the door in uniform, and they looked like 2 deer got caught out of a jacklight or something, and kind of froze there. And all I had was a piece of a film case, my pen, everything in the car, so I went over and and asked them for identification, and I didn't think they needed one of me. I was right in uniform, fire marshal's uniform, and they gave me their names, which I wrote on there.
Okay. Who were they? Well, first of all, you approached them and you said they looked a bit startled.
Yeah, oh really?
Okay. Then what did you say or do?
I told them I was investigating the fire, and asked them what they were doing. And they said, well,
Objection, hearsay. Go ahead.
yeah, they just heard about the fire and they come up to look. And this was 6 days later. And so I asked them for identification, and they told me that they were sergeant and wanted to call me on.
Okay, now let's go over that slowly. Who did they, you asked them for identification.
Right.
And can you sort of describe them in any way that, at this point?
I don't think I could now.
Okay, so one of them,
A year later, perhaps. But,
obviously, one of them responded first, and what did he tell you his name was?
one of them called me up, responded first, and told me that
What was that name?
Lionel called me up. And I asked him what he was there for, I believe, or something to that state. And he said I might have asked him if he knew the owner. But anyway, he said he'd been there and he was come because he left a pair of skis. And I said, well, obviously, if you did, you know what's going on. And I knew that somebody had worked on the building with the occupant from about the other fire, repaired it. And so I asked Sergeant, I said, you didn't stay here and work on this, do work here or something. And he said, well, I done a little work, but I didn't stay here. But he said, I've been into a party or two, and I knew the owner. And as I say, I wanted to get rid of him before the crew come back, and I still wanted to identify him. There was no plate on the front of the car, so I said, well, I'll get that when they turn around. And boy, they got in the car and they shoot right down backwards, and I never did get the plate.
Let me show you what's been marked as deposition exhibit number 17 and ask you to, what that is.
Well, this is the end of the pasteboard that the films come in from my Hollywood camera, which, as I said, was all I had to write with. And I made a note on here that Lionel called me, and he gave me an address to 11344 Essex Street. And I didn't write it down, but I knew he meant Bangor, he might have told me. And the other one was Percy Sargent, Monroe Road, Winterport. He called me as the one said he left the skis over there, and Sargent told me that he had worked there for him, but they indicated to me that they just come up to look around.
Okay, so what you're indicating about this number 17 is that you made a note of what they told you on the back of the Polaroid film container?
Yeah, that's the only thing I had to write on, so I wanted to turn this information over to them when somebody come, because it just didn't look right to me.
And that's in your handwriting?
That's my handwriting, and there's the time, 11:45, and it was a green car, no plate on front.
And this may be a good time to clear up something else. The last page of deposition exhibit number 2. Now, number 2 you said was a continuation of your investigation report?
Right, 2 and 3 both.
Okay, was number 2 dictated or typed by you at roughly the time of these events?
This was typed by me, but I cannot tell you for sure when it was typed. I said we were busy then, but that's my own typewriter.
Okay.
And I would say that I made notes and then typed this up from my notes. That's what I usually do.
Well, would that have been within a few weeks, a few
Oh,
months?
yeah, definitely. I was going to say it should be, there's a stamp right on it here. It come into our office just like March 1st.
Okay.
Or is it 6? Well,
Okay,
there's
so
a
within
post office stamp right there.
You believe that within at least 2 weeks?
I'd say that would be a good fair average.
And on the last page here is again a sketch of the premises where the fire was. And I'm going to ask you, is all of this sketch your work? Is none of it your work? How did this sketch come to be, and what's the story of that document?
All of these notes around here are mine.
Okay, now if you could lay it flat for a second.
Yeah.
Are you indicating some handwritten notations?
That's right, and the distances.
Okay, those are in your handwriting?
That's right. This garage and storage is not my handwriting, but I wrote the not burned in it.
Okay. Now I'm going to
And
around the back here and standing where Marvin was standing. And I just would like to ask you, starting at the front door and going clockwise around the building like this, what does it say here on the north side? There's a couple of notes there. You could even detach it if necessary.
Well, 5-gallon gas cans, 5-gallon cans of gasoline, and I've got 2 round circles where they would set in. And one, well, I know what's under it. One of them is 5 gallons full, and the other one is about a gallon left and no cap.
Okay.
Which is the description I gave you of them. And as I say, the driveway come in here, and there was one down by here where they park cars, and these were just down over the bank.
And they were very near the boiler room end of the building?
Apparently, as I remembered it, they've been more up here, but it wasn't too far down there either way. Maybe they were down farther. There was enough, so there was snow there. I know even when we were back with Jamison, when we found the body, you could still see the, the imprint where I picked them up.
Okay, and now coming further around, there's a note here, which I guess
Yeah,
is...
that's my writing. 5-gallon kerosene can, about half full, but of course, how much is water, how much is kerosene, I don't know.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I
now-
think the best of my recollection is that Norm Herrin had these dimensions from that first fire, and he might have, the outline of the building, and he might have put that down, and then I used it and filled it in.
Okay. And then finally here at about 5 o'clock you have...
Oh, that's body found face down, just left of the inside porch. That's all mine.
That's your... And this little sketch of a human figure lying by the
That's
door?
me, yeah.
Okay. Now...
Kind of a poor sketch, but I did it.
What else happened after, when we last left this narrative, people who had identified themselves as Lionel Cormier and Percy Sargent had backed down the driveway.
Objection.
Okay, well, just to identify where we are, what happened next? What do you recall next?
The next thing would be when Norm Herrin and Jamison came back, and they brought rope back, I think. If it didn't do it, I may have gone and got it. And then the next one, I think, was Schumann, who...
And about what time of day was this?
Right in the middle of the day. I think I found the body like 11, 12 o'clock, and then between 12 and 1, Schumann got there, and then why not? Lieutenant came down a while, and then Pinkham and the officer with the drug unit from Bangor.
Clark?
Yeah, Captain Clark, I think he was his title. To the drug unit, they came, and then I guess Why Not himself came, and then Why Not and I left to go call for the medical examiner. And I didn't have notes on it, but I'm almost sure that nobody had eaten. I think he and I would get something to eat and brought something back for the other fellows that was at the scene.
And were you there later when the medical examiner
Oh
came?
yes, and then Ryan, I was right there until it was practically dark that night. That's why it was...
Okay, now, was any other evidence found while you were there?
Well, the glass, we talked about the glass. In fact, I explained to Pinkham, not Pinkham, Schumann, that this white glass, I said, it looks to me like there's no question that it was blown out of the building, I believe is what I told him. And then after they moved the body, I think it was right then anyway that when I saw that clean floor, I know I discussed it with them, but they said, it may have been later that they talked about it, but they said that Ryan said the body was up in bed and fell down from his bed upstairs. He never got out of bed. And I was willing to fight over that. So I told him that no way, he was on the floor for the firefighter. He wasn't upstairs.
Okay. Were you there, did they find a gun on that occasion?
Not at that time, and I'm not sure the date without my notes. But
So there was a further time that you came back up to this scene?
I got a call from Sergeant Pinkham. He wanted to know if I would come up and help him find a gun on the fire. He said, I got a front end loader coming.
Objection.
And,
Let me just explain, he's,
I know.
for the
I
record.
He's been in court more than you and I have.
Yeah. You know,
Objection.
I said, if you leave your damn front end loader out in there, I'll find your gun for you, if there's one in there. And we got up to the scene, and Norm Herrin was up there, and I was there, and of course, I think Schumann was there too. I'm not sure about him, but there was somebody else in the lab. And of course, they didn't tell me that they had information from somewhere else and where the gun would be to help a little bit. But anyway, I knew with no cellar I'd find a gun. I found things smaller than that in the fire. And so I told Norm Herrin, if we get a gun in here, allegedly, let's have a look. And I started out down one section of the building, and Norm turned, he says, I got it. And I turned around, and he had it in his hand. I said, where'd you find it? He said, it was leaning right against the wall. I can show you on the diagram.
Could you show me on the exhibit where the gun was found?
I didn't notice where Norm went, but I started looking more in the vicinity of the body,
Okay.
which seemed to be a natural place if they wanted to find a gun under the circumstances I would look. And Norm was right about opposite the fireplace, right about here. And the gun, he had it in his hand, but he turned around and showed me. It was leaning right against them cement blocks, right here, muzzle up, at the wall. So obviously somebody, between the time this happened and that time, had picked it up and stood it up there. But where it come from, but it sure had been through the fire. It was a,
Was it fused? Was it showing, you know?
you couldn't open it. It was a bolt-action gun, and they said it was a 22, and it wasn't. It was a 177. I told them Remington only made a few of them. You ought to be able to trace it, because they only made very few of those. They looked like a 22, but they're 177s, and they, I suppose I'm a little critical, but they got over on the wall and tried to beat it open to see. I told them, I said, look, if there's a shell in there, and you open it, you can tell whether it was fired with a firing pin or whether the heat done it. It was,
Okay.
it was bang, 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 and I shook my head and left.
Now when you were out back of that building, when the building was still standing at some point, did you have a chance to observe how high the back door was?
Yes, I did.
Okay, about how high?
It was roughly 4 feet, because I stand up to a pulpwood stick when I'm cutting wood, it's right around my pocket there. And as I walked up, stood up with that can, I knew I was right up close to it. And I verified it by a photo, by the 8-inch blocks on the courses. I can count for 40-odd inches, so I'm within a few inches of it.
Okay. Now, on the day, the 24th, the day the body was found, you stayed there till dark, and and at that point, you still had an open arson investigation on this particular event?
I felt I did at that time, yeah.
Okay. When did you cease to actually actively investigate this?
Well, I'd worked these quite a few times before, and what I've always done is once I found out they had a body, it was a suspected homicide,
Objection.
I would cooperate with them. They led the investigation, and I would do what they asked me to, without butting in them, and they usually, most cases would work with me on the fire end. But we had a meeting the next morning.
That's the 25th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Up to the Lucerne Fire Station.
Who was present?
Well, the fire marshal came over and we got to visit. I think his assistant was there, Buddy Evans at that time. I'm not positive, seems like he was. I know Manduca, who was a sergeant in the state police, but he was assigned to just supervise the state policeman that worked with us.
And that's M-A-N-D-U-C-A, Manduca?
Manduca, yeah. And Jamison was there with me, and Norm Herrin was there, and Alto, the deputy that followed the tracks, was there. And I noticed either, I think Pinkham and James were both there. Anyway, there were state police representatives there. And after they thrashed it around a little bit, what we had, Aldo was going to get his part ready for him. I was going to see that they got my report. And at that time, they said, well, from now on, we call this a homicide, and they have charges.
Okay. Now, how did you interpret this in terms of your
I
role?
interpreted it from then on. It was up to them unless they asked me to do something.
Okay. Now, after And then you said they called you up once and you went up when they wanted to find a gun.
That's right.
Now, after that, did they ever call up and ask your opinion about anything to do with this particular fire?
Not that I recall.
Were you aware that 3 people were indicted for this in
I read
1984?
the newspaper.
Okay, did they, at the time of those indictments, did anyone from the state police contact you?
Objection.
They never, no call, no discussion whatsoever with anyone?
Objection.
Now,
It's all irrelevant, every bit of it.
I would like you to assume, now you've given the information that you have about this fire, okay, and everything you observed and have been able to sort of establish, that someone is in that building and hears the rafters falling, okay? Is it possible, in your opinion, to get in and out of that building once the rafters are falling?
Objection.
I would question even getting out, let alone getting back in.
Okay, do you feel it's, well, what do you mean by I would question? Again, could you just
Well,
explain?
I wouldn't say it was impossible if somebody was near an exit and they heard it at the other end of the house, for instance, that they might get up and get out if they were near a door. But once they took, there'd be enough heat in that house. If you had enough fire to drop a rafter, you'd have a temperature that you wouldn't take more than one, probably one good deep breath, and you'd go down just like you was in the operating room.
So, again, I mean, I hate to sort of reinvent the wheel and belabor the obvious, but what are you saying then? If the rafters are falling, is it likely that someone can get out of that building?
Objection.
Not without protective clothing.
Okay, if the rafters are falling, is it likely they can get back in and out again?
A building that size, I would think it was even possible. No.
Objection.
Okay, I want you to further assume that, no, start with a completely different assumption. Forget anything about the rafters now for the purpose of this hypothetical question, which is that the building is, at least the fire is out through the roof. The inside of the walls are, to an outside observer, fully involved with flames. At that point, can anyone get in and out of that building within 10 minutes of that observation?
Objection.
My opinion would be no, not in that building.
Okay, now what is, you've just given me 2 opinions. Let's go back to the rafters falling, okay? What is the problem with getting out once the rafters are falling? What's the basis for your
Well, I'm
opinion?
basing it on the fact that before rafters are going to fall, they got to burn off. To fall. They're going to burn where they are until they're practically burned off. And on wood of that type and that big, by the time you had enough heat, there's only 2 ways you're going to have it happen. You're either going to have it from a fire that burned a long while in a small place, which is possible in some conditions, or you had a hot fire with a lot of flammable material to drive that temperature up quick all over to do it. That's the only 2 ways you're going to do it.
And which way did this building burn?
Objection.
In my opinion, it would be from the hot fire. All the evidence that I've seen.
Okay. And did you, was I right in understanding that the problem would be the heat in, getting in and out of the building? The actual heat from the
Well,
fire?
you got smoke and heat both, and a human being isn't going to take either one of them to breathe.
Okay.
The high temperature will kill him quicker than the smoke.
Objection. No response.
Now, what, yeah, exactly. Let me just clear that up. What is more dangerous, high temperature or smoke?
Objection.
High temperature.
Now, what about the opinion regarding getting in and out of the building within 10 minutes once the fire's out through the roof and the inside walls are totally involved? What's your basis for stating that?
Because your temperature in that building is certainly going to be up where you couldn't breathe it.
Objection. Not responsive.
Now, if we could just go off the record for a moment. Just a couple of things to finish up. First of all, I wanted to ask you, you testified that you qualified in court on numerous occasions to testify as an expert witness on fire origins and arson investigation and fire investigation.
Yeah.
Could you tell me which courts you have qualified in?
both the municipal courts and district courts, superior courts and federal courts.
Okay. How many times have you qualified in the Superior Court?
Well, most of our cases were certainly superior court because many times they don't even go in. All they'll do is go in the lower court and waive. Well, a lot of them come by indictments anyway. There's no other proceedings. So district courts have been fewer than superior courts.
Okay. And you, when you qualified in the federal court, who was the judge?
Judge Janu was down in Portland, and in Bangor, I didn't know his name, but he's a little short fellow, and he's got a cottage down to Newbury Neck, and he comes from down south somewhere, and I think he was filling in up here about the time they got behind, and Micheal was moving around from one job to another, or something like that. They got behind, and he was up here in the federal court in Bangor.
Okay.
He looked like little Santa Claus to me. He was a little short fellow with a gray head. I can tell you a humorous story about him when we get off the air.
I hope he's not the judge who's qualified. Now next, I would like you to just very roughly, if you would, draw a picture of the camp, the road, the path you followed when you followed the tracks, and then the path you took back in the latrine area that you mentioned. I just felt it may be clearer if you draw that for the purposes of the record. Any way you want to draw it.
I'm going to start in by, what's row one? Ellsworth going, one going down Ellsworth from up here. After you get up here, that's kind of fun. Anyway, you got a main road down there.
Is that Bangor and Ellsworth that you have?
Yeah, that's the main road going down by, and you've got Lucerne Lakes, that's right in, around the cove here, all around, and you've got a road that cuts through off the main road before it makes the corner here. Norman Herrin's driveway goes down in this way, to pretty well up to this end of the lake, and right around it, and then went out onto Bangor Road again, and this one come right around the lake, goes way up through the cottages. And that's that Sumac Road. There's one or two cottages in here. And this road turned right off and went up just about like that.
Now, could you label what you're drawing there?
Yeah, I'm going in a minute. And the garage, of course, was right over this way. Should be smaller. Then there was a driveway that spun off right down in here where the gas tanks was, and it stopped right in front. And those tracks, when I picked them up, I probably should have left more room here.
Well, use the second sheet and line it right up and mark them both.
And it was because where they'd been fighting the fire, this was all tracked up in the snow. And these tracks left right when they showed me, it was right beyond the garage, right in this area, and they run almost straight right out through here. As I said, it could be 200 feet, 250, 150. And it was almost a straight line. It was kind of a ridge, went right along on it. And then, as I recall, I stopped and there was something as high as that table. It had snow on it, whether it was a pile of snow, I think probably it was a big rock or something.
Okay, could you label that? Okay.
Well, I'll mark it rock. I think it had to be up that high. There wasn't that much snow. And then they turned like that, and that's as far as I went.
Okay, now could you, this line that you've
It
drawn
was downhill, down this way.
from one picture to the other, could you label what that line is? Track followed in snow, is that tracks followed in snow?
Then,
And could you make a dotted line for your return?
that's what I was going to say. Then I left here, and I came right down this edge, and back up through here to the end. And I might have gone down a little farther, but there was these tracks back and forth. Some come out here way and went down, some came from by the shed and went down. I didn't go around that way at that time to see, but they would come right down so that I intercepted them all through the wood. Just,
And there was latrine area all through here?
That's right, yeah. There was different tracks they'd gone down. As I say, some might have been a day old, some a week old. Snow at that time apparently hadn't been a storm for quite a while.
Okay, now Well, let's tape that together.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna put that down right in the first place. Yep. I come on the sheet the other way. And
I'm gonna take that down.
What's the next one, number 18?
Thank you.
I think if grandchildren in school could do a better job than this. What else you like
I'm
on?
marking this as deposition exhibit number 18. Now, is deposition exhibit number 18 the diagram that you've just drawn?
That's right.
And why don't you say what this, you said that was the drive?
That was the
picture was
drive,
taken
the only drive up to the, what's the name of it here? Kennedy Cottage.
Okay.
This was a Sumac Road down here, they call it. Sumac.
Okay, now, when you, following this dotted line back,
Yeah.
you came up below the ravine from the house and the garage?
Yeah, this slope land, it sloped off, as I said before, out in, it was split level. You go at the floor level here and down back, it was 4 feet below it,
Okay.
and it
And
kept
you-
going downhill.
Okay, you encountered no, you crossed no other tracks after the latrine area?
No, I checked, it was all dead-ended out to wherever they'd been in the toilet.
Okay, and are you sure that this took off from this point rather than any place sort of further behind the garage or behind the house? Or
It looked right out by the edge of the garage, right? It may have been a
Okay.
little closer to it, but.
So you came off the edge of the garage and followed them straight up
Right.
the high ground?
Yeah, well, I didn't, because the tracks didn't show, they'd been trampled up by firemen, obviously, right around the building. And I just know, I know it's pointed, I see a fellow run out through here and pointed, and then when I got out beyond, I could see
Objection,
the
that's
track.
not responsive.
But that's where you...
Hearsay.
Okay. Norm indicated to you the general direction he had seen an individual? Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay, and then when you went and picked up a series of tracks, did you have Norman right with you?
Yes, I did. He walked out and showed me where he see him last.
Okay, and then did he accompany you as you walked out there? Or?
I believe he did. And I think Alvo joined us, and that's why I turned the tracks over to him. That's the best I can remember.
Okay, and finally, I have no further questions. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.